I love them fireworks, guys. I'm Michal Alan for TravelCostaRicaNow.com.
And I am Alan Richard with Living with the off the Grid Homestead in Costa Rica.
Yeah, I don't know if people know this, man, but we got two different websites, man. We're two different people. We just come together on this podcast.
And
True.
that's because hey, nobody knows Costa Rica more than Michal Alan and myself. With all of the years that we've been here.
Wait. I liked it better when you just said Michal Alan. You could have stopped right there.
No, man. I'm what makes you good. Without me, you just odd.
You complete me.
Yeah.
All right, before we get started, now we're going to be going off the grid again. We were off the grid last week. We're going off the grid again this week. We are going to touch on some things we did talk about last time. So if you missed last week, you're going to be caught up, but we're going to get a little deeper dive this time, Alan. We're going a little deeper off the grid, off grid too. But before we start, our good friend Pam and Thomas, we met them at the relocation retreat. Do you remember them? Pam and Thomas?
Yeah, that was 2 times back, I believe.
Now, just to describe, before I show you what happened, I want to tell you about Pam first. I mean, Thomas is sketchy as hell, but let's talk about Pam. Pam, do you guys know who Paula Deen is, right? The lady that makes the fried chicken that can give you a heart attack in like 3 minutes. She was big on the TV. Anyway, Pam's got that Paula Deen talk. She's from the South. She's so sweet. I met up with them this past week. We went out to lunch and she got me a little present, Alan. She got me a little present.
No way. Let's see. What did she get you, man?
Okay, now we're talking sweet. We're talking sweet lady from the South, Paula Deen style. Got me a coffee cup, Alan.
Oh, come on.
Size matters. I was like, Pam, oh my God, you are in the gutter. And then I realized I live in the gutter and she was just getting something that I would be good with. It wasn't her. At first I thought her mind wasn't right. But then I realized she was just doing something for me because I'm in the gutter. Did you guys see it?
That's it.
It's 32 ounces of black goodness.
32 ounces.
And I'm just kidding about Tom. He's probably even sketchier than I say, but Pam's wonderful. No, they were great, man. I love seeing them. It was great meeting them at the relocation retreat. It was the second one, right? The second one or the first one? I don't remember.
Yeah, I think they came to the second one.
But anyway, thank you, Pam. I got a new cup. I love the coffee cups, man. I don't want for anything. I don't really want anything. But the coffee cups, I'm into, dude. So this might be my most...
hey, that is without a doubt your biggest cup.
Okay, I just want to say thank you, Pam and Thomas. It was great hanging out with you at the Lava Lounge and talking and getting my cup, and I'm using it today. All right, we're going back off the grid with Alan, and the first thing I wanted to talk about, well, actually 2 things before we kind of jump into some stuff. One is, what's the difference for you, those of you who don't know, Alan lives 4,700 feet on a mountain. Now, what is the difference between what you're doing and a prepper? And for those people that don't maybe know what a prepper is, what's a prepper and are you a prepper?
Okay, so preppers are people that are, no matter how you say it, they're either waiting for the end of the world, they're waiting for a zombie apocalypse. They're like, they know that the world's going to hell in a handbasket. And you know what? They know that when it gets crazy, I mean, come on, every time you see something stupid happen, with police and stuff, well, then everybody in Alabama or everybody, Georgia, they go in there and they just destroy and rob every place in the world. Well, preppers like, that ain't happening to me. So preppers will go to some remote location, and it doesn't have to be on a mountain, but they might be in some fenced in area, and they are stocking up on groceries and stocking up, and they're probably planting stuff, and they're trying to be self-sufficient too, because when all hell breaks loose and the crap hits the fan, they're prepared. They're prepping for the end of the world.
Is it really the end of the world or just end of, like kind of civilization? Because I think there might be preppers and then there's preppers. There's
Yeah, you're right. It's it's more like, hey, I'm prepared when the world's gonna go on and I'm gonna be here. And you know what? We might get hit by an asteroid or whatever, but they are preparing to survive.
I got to tell you, I probably was one of those people, maybe let's say 10 years ago. I was like, man, those people are a little too right for me. But you know what? Maybe they know what they're doing. I can almost see what they're doing to some degree, I got to say. But
Well,
you don't classify yourself as a prepper, do you?
no, I don't
Or
classify myself as a prepper, but as a Marine, I have always been prepared. Okay. So I like to be prepared. Coming from Louisiana, you get hit by hurricanes and stuff. So when I had my grocery store, I was prepared. When I had my grocery store, if we get hit by a hurricane, I would mop up, man, would I make some money because all the other stores would shut down. I had a generator. I kept on working. Man, we had a hurricane party in my store one night. I normally close at 10. We was open till midnight because people couldn't buy food anywhere and they were buying it there. So I'm just always prepared, but I just like to be prepared. Now that I'm up here, well, I'm not a prepper, but I am living a sustainable life.
which we're going to get
That's a
into. So
big difference.
you're more of a Boy Scout prepper instead of an AK-47 prepper.
There you go. I'm a machete prepper because in
Nothing
here you
wrong
can't
with
have
hey, nothing wrong with an AK-47. Hey, whatever. Because everybody will be running to those preppers when if anything was to go wrong. So that'll be funny. The other thing is, the big word it seems like these days is permaculture. That seems to be like the cool word to say, hey, man, what about permaculture? Do you guys, and it's big here in Costa Rica. That word is thrown
it.
around a lot. I get it in emails a lot, about uh, permaculture. Where can I do permaculture? So maybe go over either the misconceptions, what permaculture really is, and the misconceptions of it, and kind of just, generally.
So permaculture is real big. It got started way back in 1970 by two guys from Australia. And permaculture really is a combination of two words: permanent and agriculture. And what these people realize is that in regular everyday agriculture, well, agriculture is not self-sufficient. It will destroy the world. Agriculture, they go in there and they farm great big old huge masses of property, and then they farm it so bad if they don't do it right that you end up with this big plot of property that is dead. Okay.
Right.
Well, permaculture is permanent agriculture, but instead of agriculture, you learn the culture, you learn how to actually, and it's not just growing stuff. Permaculture is being able to build a place to live and build it so that it permanently is sustainable and works with cohesive nature, so that you have this small footprint, but you're not just growing a garden, but you're growing a garden and you're giving back to the soil. You're growing your trout, your fish, your fruit farm. You're doing what a lot of people are looking at: food forest, where you're learning how to grow in combination with the forest so that everything helps itself. In just agriculture, you're planting, but you don't ever give back to the soil. So you're raping the soil out of everything and it dies. Permaculture is really saying, hey, we want, we appreciate all life, everything living, the worms, the bugs, because everything has a purpose in the environment. And if you can work together with it, you have the perfect environment to where you can grow all your food. You can be self-sustainable. You've got a trout pond, and it's in the right place. You're not having, you build a trout pond in conjunction with the river. So the river's actually feeding it, and you're not putting chemicals into the river. So you're not killing stuff down the road, and you're not feeding them artificial stuff. So it's learning how to work with the environment.
So it's a more knowledgeable, self-sustainable. It's not just self-sustainable, it's kind of a more educated way of being self-sustainable, kind of.
Absolutely. And by doing it that way, whenever you plant something, it's permanent. So it's permanent agriculture, and you're not destroying the soil. So that's why, permaculture has become a huge, huge thing because, well, people that are saving the wells, and, people that are vegan. Veganism is about, is I'm not a vegan. I like to eat, I eat mostly plant-based, but man, ain't nobody cooks a better steak or hamburger than I do. Okay. So veganism there, don't kill the animals. Okay. Well, some animals need to be killed, but you don't need an abuse of that either.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're going to eat it, it's a whole different thing. I mean, there's a whole. I didn't know about the whole hunting thing. I got my mind changed a lot. I used to hunt, but anyway, I heard a couple people on Joe Rogan podcast talking about kind of the spirituality of actually hunting and pulling the bow back and shooting an animal and this whole. I don't know. It was a more spiritual thing of taking an animal for sustenance, for the family, you know, killing it, and then you hear about all, every animal out in the wilderness dies a gruesome death. They just do. They get old. They're gonna be eaten by a bear or something.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We don't have to get into the whole hunting thing, but so permaculture is actually a good word. I always thought it was being like overused a little bit, but I guess it sounds like a pretty good word.
Yeah, it's actually a really good word because it's learning how to save the environment so that we can actually live longer, better lives for everything.
How much? Okay, let's hit a couple things that we talked about last time. How much did you know before you got interested in doing this? Were you already researching? Did you do a lot of homework and research, or did you do it how you came out to Costa Rica and like, hey man, honey, Rebecca, we should go live on a mountain? Or did you have some things planned out and kind of homework and research in that whole self-sustainable permaculture world? Did you know
I
what you were doing?
really didn't I really didn't do a whole lot of homework, but you have to understand I grew up on a small farm. So I already have a lot of basic knowledge. When I was a kid, my daddy, we raised chickens and rabbits and quail, and my dad had one of the most beautiful gardens. So I already have a lot of that knowledge in my mind. And so Rebecca and I living in Louisiana, we went and visit Tennessee, and we just every time we'd go visit somewhere in the United States, we loved the mountains. So we always wanted to go to a mountain. And keep in mind when I talk about living self-sustainable, I'm finding out there's a lot of people that want to do something similar to what I'm doing. But in reality, you don't have to have a lot of acreage. You could really be self-sustainable for you and your family on 1 acre of land. So you don't need a ton of acreage in order to be self-sustainable or have a permaculture farm on that small piece of property.
Yeah, but let's talk about that a little bit. We mentioned it, but I feel like the location of what you're going to do is pretty important when you think about it. I mean, Costa Rica might be an easier uh, location spot because it's so fertile here and all that kind of thing. But let's go over how important the location is, how you picked your location, and was the whole self-sustainable part that you wanted to live part of your um, the reason you picked where you did, or you got lucky, or you just like, hey, let's go there and see what happens, or how important was the location picking?
Okay, so if you want to live a self-sustainable life, okay, or if you want to live, because everything you said, yes, the reason we picked this location, and I always tell people when you're looking for property, the number one thing you should look for is does it have a natural water source? Okay. And that's if you want to live the type of lifestyle I'm in. So number one, I'm always looking for a natural water source and what color is the soil. Okay. And so those are the two things I'm always looking for. Well, I wanted to be on a mountain so that I wouldn't be in the city. So I'm up on the mountain. I've got good black fertile soil, and I've got lots and lots of water. Uh, about 30 kilometers down the mountain into Buenos Aires, that place is pretty much owned by Del Monte. Okay. We grow thousands upon thousands and thousands of acres of pineapples, but that soil is so dead. Okay. It's nothing but red soil. And the only way those pineapples grow is through the chemicals and fertilizer they put on it. It's that dead. Okay. So that's the extreme left of how agriculture has killed that soil, but they're managing to grow it through just chemicals. So I'm up here on the extreme opposite where I want good fertile soil, water, I'm in a mountain, and of course I don't even have to worry about the temperature because it's the perfect temperature to just about grow everything. If I was near the beach, it'd be too hot to be growing some of the greens, the salads and stuff that I need, cabbages and stuff like that. Up in the mountains, I can grow all of that stuff almost 24/7.
So the major variables are the water source, the soil, and that kind of thing, right? Those are kind of the top.
Those are kind of the top thing. It's really important. Now, look, you can still be self-sustainable and you can be almost anywhere, but obviously you're using the water that comes from Costa Rica. And in most parts, the water is pretty good in Costa Rica. There are a few places water is not that great. And of course, they're trying to somewhat treat their water, but it ain't that great. But anyhow, for most of Costa Rica, the water is clean.
Well, let's talk about the water a little bit. You get your own water, but what about waste management? How are you doing septic? Are you doing something else?
Okay.
Obviously, septic probably the easier or whatever. But
Right.
talk about waste management basically.
Okay, so at the moment we're doing the composting toilet. Okay, and a lot of people don't want to do the compost toilet. It's just really all that it's not all that fun. But since we didn't have a house here, well, we use composting toilet. Now I've actually bought. I've got one septic tank, and I'm buying two more. So obviously I want my area to stay green, and so if I install just one septic tank, well, my waste management would be horrible because now you got all of the solids, you got everything going in one tank, and it doesn't ever get a chance to be clean before it goes back into the environment. I don't want that. So I'm installing three tanks. And if you want a green eco system, well, then you have a septic tank that has three chambers. You can't buy that in Costa Rica, but you can make it by buying three tanks, and all your solids go in your first tank, and then it overflows into the liquids, and the liquids go into the second tank. Okay, but then your third tank is where all your gray water goes. The gray water, it's really not that bad, but it does have chemicals that come from your shower, come from your sink, and you don't want those chemicals going into the first or the second tank because you have extremely good bacteria in those two tanks that's eating up and breaking down solids and all of that stuff. That's what's actually cleaning it before it goes to the third tank, where you have nothing but your gray water, and then it goes into your leach field, and into your leach field it goes back into the ground, and you want that to be far away from any actual live rivers or creeks so that it filters throughout the natural layers of the earth and then goes back into the soil, and now it's as clean as it was when you got it. That's proper waste management.
Okay, so I want to go back just real quick. So we talked about location, but what about deciding on the structure you were actually going to build? I want to go over. I thought, that was. I know a lot of people were like, "Oh my gosh," about the price, but let's, what structures are people thinking about when they're being self-sustainable? I mean, how the architecture of it with, if you're going to do solar or what you're going to do, you're going to have more glass, or no, you shouldn't, maybe cement, or you're going to use wood, or what goes into the answering those questions about what your structure is going to be. You're using metal, I think you said.
Well,
why?
Why? I'm using metal because the prices of wood went astronomically crazy with this last government administration. And so I'm using metal because metal will last forever. And because of Costa Rica's gets a whole lot of seismic activity, well, metal will last longer. And is just so much better. Now, there's some people that have asked me, well, how about a metal container house? Well, you could do a container house, but I haven't found a resource. When I was looking for container houses, they were crazy high. So in the United States, you can buy a container house or a container, a shipping container fairly cheap. Well, if I could get a fairly cheap one here, that would be a great resource too, but then you're restricted to that size. So I looked into it and it was like, hey, I can build a metal structure a lot cheaper than I could wood, and it would last longer, be safer because of what little bit of seismic activity that we have. And then up here, you could build out of wood and you don't have a problem with termites, and that's because of our high location. It's too cold for termites here. But if you go down in most of Costa Rica, the termites, if you don't build it right, will eat your house up in just no time. And you see that in a lot of Tico houses. See, so I chose metal for that reason. But then you've got to think what size. Most people that are coming to Costa Rica, are wanting to do what I'm doing. They're trying to downsize. They're trying to live a more simple life. And they're realizing that in Costa Rica, the environment is so nice. They're more outdoor living than indoor living.
Yeah, I love the porches, man. I could live out on a porch if it's big enough. I would put my sofa out there, my kitchen. If I had a TV, I'd put a TV out there, but I would do all my stuff out on the porch, really. You know?
Well, let me go back to this question right here that Keith said, need a filtration water system. Now, where I'm at, I don't need a filter system. My water is so clean, it don't get any cleaner than my water, okay? Now, would you need a water filtration system in some places in Costa Rica? Yes, but see, my water comes from an artesian well, okay? It comes straight from the rocks. Now, there's a lot of people and a lot of the locals that will put a hose right in the river.
Yeah.
That's not bad, but that's not great, okay? But you could put in a house water filtration system, and then it is pretty good. See, so that's where you need a water filtration system. And of course, it never hurts if you're worried that you might get a few chemicals or a little bit of dirt, in your hose. But hey, the way I look at it, hey, we got to have minerals and iron too. So don't bother me.
My partner, D'Angelo, that's how he got his water to his mountain house. They just stuck a hose or, a piping system from up in a river coming down from the mountain. And they'd have to go up there every now and then because they'd get clogged up, with whatever branches and stuff. But man, the water was unbelievable, unfreaking believable.
Oh, absolutely. And of course, I'm, like you said at the intro, well, I'm at 4,750 feet up. Okay. So I'm in a really great place, but it is kind of important to know a little bit about your water because Rebecca just reminded me when we were living in Carmona over on the Nicoya Peninsula, their water had a lot of calcium in there. And so the calcium coming through there, that would have been an ideal place. And they were getting their water out of a stream. Okay. But it had so much calcium in there that the shower heads, the sinks, that stuff was constantly getting stopped up because of all of the calcium. So, when you learn about your water, then you're like, I got to have this filter to try to get this calcium out before it gets to my shower heads, right? Or my whatever.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Most people talking about structures of their house, though, are almost everybody's downsizing. You don't come to Costa Rica and build a bigger house, really. You buy a bigger house, maybe, but you're not really building a super big house unless you're one of those people that come in for, 3 weeks and you got millions of dollars and you want to, condo by the beach. But most people want to live here or usually are kind of downsizing. But the structure is important. I mean, depending on where you live, you really should think, well, cement might be the answer. I'm not a big proponent of wood here because I just think time, that's why you see wood here mostly as accents. They make beautiful houses, but I'm not sure in the long run, if you're looking for a house with a really, I don't know, tell me if I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know. I think I'd stay away from wood as a general. The house is going to be all wood. I just don't.
Yeah. As a general, you are losing out big time for the most part if you try to build an all wood house. Most of the time it is going to get eaten up by termites. It's just termite is a bad thing here. So if I were you, I would stay away from that, have a combination. And that's why some of the very first houses you saw in Costa Rica, they had 1 meter of block wall and then they built wood on top of it. And that was to try to keep the termites from getting it. See,
we have a lot of those here. Yeah. So let's go. Oh, go ahead.
No, just a quick. I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Shelly because hey, Shelly is just an inspiration. She came to one of our Costa Rican relocation retreats. And anyway, Shelly, in case you don't know, because I don't think she follows my channel that much, but in my last video, I talk about Shelly in my video as one of the people that just really is inspirational to me as to her coming down here at her age and making that decision to say, I'm going to do it. I'm going to Costa Rica.
Don't be trying to tear Shelly away from me and put her over on you. Dude, that's mine. She lives by me. Hey, Shelly. Cheers. So let's go over real quick about the things you need to talk about. With power, your energy. Obviously you're not. I don't think that there's any wires running up to your house. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure there's not. So, kind of the things you have to look at if you're going to be self-sustainable, maybe in your power options or your
Okay, so
energy
you got
options.
several power options now, and where I'm at, I could almost do all three. So you've got solar, wind, and hydro. Okay, and what is most popular in Costa Rica is your hydro. And hydro in Costa Rica, they have, and a lot of people may not have heard this word, but they have these great big, humongous things, and it's called a pelton. And this pelton has these big paddles. If you think of a big steamboat that had them big paddle wheels on the back of it, well, a pelton is kind of like that, and it takes a massive amount of water, and it's turning these paddles, which is then generating electricity. And a lot of people in Costa Rica they got a wire coming. They've got a big pelton in the river. It's spinning. They got a wire running up to their house, and they're not even. They don't even use. They don't even use a breaker box, man. They just running wires to the house, and it's enough wiring for their lighting, but there's nothing that's controlling that power, and so they
The
can't have
surge.
like a refrigerator and stuff. Yeah, it's surging. And so to do it properly, you want to have that hydro running into an actual breaker box or running into a system that you can then convert it to battery, and so it's in the battery and then comes out of the battery and then comes back out, and that way you can then control the amount, and it goes into a breaker box and you don't have it surging and everything. That's the proper way. So if you have water close enough to you, you can do that. And I will be installing a pelton or a hydroelectric system in the river that's just right beside me. So I will be installing that in the very near future. Right now, I do solar. Okay. So, yeah, I've got 6 panels, 2 batteries. That whole system cost me $6,000. Okay. Really cheap to have electricity. And it's a little bit small right now. So I will make it a little bit larger. But that whole system cost me $6,000. I did see a question on here. Someone asked me, where did I get my, solar from? Well, you need to go to my channel, put that question underneath my video, because you're putting that question on Mike's video and I don't see those questions. So if you want me to answer your question, hey, just go to my channel, find this exact live, put that question in there, and I'll be more than glad to give you that information, because it's very hard to find a good solar. I mean, when I was looking for solar equipment, you don't know how many gringos tried to cheat me. I mean, they wanted all the money, boy. $10,000 for a single battery. I'm like, that baddie better get up and dance for
Yeah,
$10,000. So
right.
it's crazy. So anyway,
Can I go
we
back
got,
to? Go ahead.
well, we got solar, hydro, and wind. So you can't have wind if you're high enough. And actually, I'm pretty high enough, but there's not enough wind. I'd only be able to get wind power for about 3 months out of the year.
Yeah, we have a lot of those around Lake Arenal, man. They've been building those left and right. That whole big, windmill looking thing. So
Right.
I wanted to ask you about the water real quick. What about those gravity ones? So just with the big tubs, is that worth having like for a saving? To have
Oh,
water around?
absolutely. Look, because of Costa
Well,
Rica's
explain it first. Explain it first. Explain it
okay,
first.
so a lot of people, okay, so let's just say the majority of the people that's living in Costa Rica, they're getting their water just from the city. It goes into their house. However, it always goes off, never fails. It goes off right after I'm done running, and I'm sitting there sweating and I'm all nasty for the rest of the day. Well, I always tell people, get you a small water tank. Man, you get you a small water tank. It's about the same size as a 55-gallon drum. It's a plastic water tank, and I've got one right behind here that we started out with. So you have this small water tank, and it doesn't have to be that high. You can have it 10 feet up, 8 feet up, but you have your water running into that small water tank, okay? And so it's constantly filling up, and it has a valve in there, and so when it fills up, it shuts the water off. As you're using that water and taking a shower, it goes down, it cuts the water back on. But now what happens is if the water gets cut off, you have gravity-fed water. Well, gravity-fed water will then come into your house. Well, a lot of the Ticos are getting water from the river, And when they're getting water from the river, if for some reason it gets clogged up, like you said, if for some reason, like D'Angelo, every once in a while he has to go unclog his filter. I do too. I have to unclog my filter. But you know what? When I unclog my filter, it doesn't matter. It can stay clogged up for a week if it wants, because all my water runs into a huge 1,100-liter tank. So my water goes into a 1,100-liter tank, comes from that tank to my house. And so if for some reason my line gets cut, gets clogged up, a tree falls on it, pinches it, I never have to worry about running out of water. I've got at least 2 weeks supply of water in my tank in the event that my line gets disabled. So
Yeah,
always have you a tank.
I had our Fiji house that we won, had those gravity water tanks, whatever. So I kind of during the show, it was funny because a lot of times it wasn't raining and they had to go find water to pour water into it. So, okay, I wanted to ask you a little about what I know you're going to grow food. I don't know how much you're growing food, but are you going to do any of that, like drying stuff and canning stuff and doing that kind of prep? You know what I mean? Like that food preparation.
Now, in the United States, I used to actually, and hey, back when I was hunting, my son is a big, big hunter, and he only kills what he and his family can eat. Of course, he's got 4 kids, so he's already killed 3 deer this year, okay? And the season just started. So used to, hey, when I was in the Marine Corps, I met this really sweet, sweet woman. She was a lot like Pam Till that you was talking about, okay? Well, she taught me, because my mom and daddy, they used to can a lot of their stuff. In the United States, you need to can because the growing season is so short, okay? In Costa Rica, you don't necessarily need to can. However, I had this sweet woman show me that you could can deer meat. And man, I was like, really? So you could can this deer meat so that you didn't need a freezer. You didn't need to dry smoke it. You could can this stuff. And in that way, you've got it in your pantry. You can reach and go get it anytime you want. Add it to rice and you'd have, in any way, yes, you can can meat, which is great. You don't need a freezer. You can can a lot of vegetables because, now what I will be doing soon is I will be digging out or building a root cellar. So a root cellar is perfect for that type of thing. A root cellar, you can put your potatoes and all your root produce inside there, and it will last practically a year. Okay. Well, a lot of stuff that won't last, like tomatoes. Well, in Costa Rica, you can grow tomatoes 24/7. But if you want to eat, tomatoes grow so fast, so easy. Well, I want to be able to make my own ketchup, my own tomato sauce. Well, you get this overabundance of tomatoes, you can can that stuff, and so now you've got your own tomato sauce. You can make all kind of stuff, but you got to know how to can. Have you a great big old root cellar or a big enough storage space to put all of that so that you have access to it whenever you want it.
You do have plans of gardening and having how big of a garden? Like for instance, how big of a garden will you be having?
We will, as soon as we supposed to be moving in, hopefully here within a month. Okay, we'll get moved into the house and we're going to immediately build a garden house. Okay, well, a garden house is simply all it is on a small scale, 4 poles and a roof, right? And you just want plastic over it. And what you want is you want clear white plastic so that the sun can come through. But the whole purpose of that is during the rainy season, it will rain so hard, it will destroy anything that's growing. So if you have a cover on it and the sun could still come through, so I will actually have an area that's going to be 6 meters wide and probably 10 meters long. And that way I can actually grow whatever I want there. Now, I'll actually make it a little bit bigger and I'll actually have rabbits growing. I'll actually have quail growing. And in all of that, the rabbits, the quail, all of their droppings will make the soil better, add to it, and actually you can use that soil to replenish the soil in your garden.
Just to be personal, so what are some of the top things you're going to personally grow?
Okay, so we'll actually grow, all of your basic stuff because I like to eat a salad every day. If I could have a salad every day, I would. So I'm definitely going to grow several different greens.
Let's do fireworks for salad. Let's do some fireworks.
That's it. So, I'll have all of the greens out there that you can think of that, that grows real quick for salad. I'll have lots of tomatoes, carrots, cucumbers, bell peppers. I'll have all those basic things growing all the time. And then, of
Yeah,
course, I'll have,
that
go
doesn't
ahead.
even account. That doesn't even account for all the trees. I'm sure you either will have or have avocados, mangoes, papayas, cas, maracuya, guava, all that stuff. I don't know how much you have of that, but it's kind of
I don't
nice to
have a
go
whole
out
lot
there.
of that right now. Keith says, don't forget the weed. I got plenty of weeds, but I think I know what you're talking about.
Wait, did somebody? Are we supposed to smoke now? Wait, hold on.
Wait,
No, but I
did you?
don't. Do you have trees? Do you have some fruit trees at all, or are you gonna
Yeah,
put them in?
I've already planted some. Well, Costa Rica they call them mora, but everything's mora. And
Right.
why
Yeah.
is it losing my mind? What are the trees that I planted here a couple of years ago?
Oh gosh, I'm losing. I can't. It's not muscadine. It's
No,
Well, you know, well, the easy ones. The easy ones here are obviously banana, papaya, plantains. Those are everywhere. You can put those and have bananas for the rest of your life.
well, see, and
Coconut.
I've already planted a bunch of bananas. I've got some plantains. I've got it's a berry tree, and for whatever reason, it's slipping my mind. But it grows big,
Yeah.
long berries.
I know what you're talking about, and I can't think of it either.
Anyway, but I've already got some avocado trees planted. I planted some mangoes. Mangoes might take a long time because it may not be hot enough up here to grow the mangoes. Okay, but I've already and so of course I'm gonna plant some lemons, some oranges, some apples, and I'll get all of that. But keep in mind, I've only been here a couple of years, and it has taken me practically 2 years because where I'm at, it was nothing but a jungle here. So I've had to clear out. But yeah, indeed, I will have cantaloupe, watermelons. I'll have, squash. I'll have, practically all the vegetables I can grow. And the key thing here is because you can grow 24/7. Like you have a small area that you're growing, 5 or 10 tomato plants, and you plant them now. And then 2 months later, you plant another little batch. 2 months later, you plant another batch because those tomatoes are going to last 2 to 3 months and then they die out. You'll plant another one. But when it comes to like bell peppers, they will keep growing and keep growing
Yeah,
and keep growing. And they won't stop. They'll keep producing.
exactly. Guys, this is going a little quicker than I thought. I wanted to say something real quick. Guys, our relocation retreat is a smash. We just started selling tickets like, I don't know, 9 days ago. We've already sold 10 and we only have 20 spots. So if Costa Rica's on your radar, think you might want to live here or need a crash course in the good, the bad, the ugly of living in Costa Rica, we would love to see you there. Now, if you want us, you can sign up from both our sites because we get a credit for it. So if you want to give me the credit, you go to my site. If you want to give Alan the credit, you go to his site. But my point is, these are going to start selling out fast, and we're super excited. We're making them better and better. The food's getting better and better. We're at a beautiful place. So again, man, if Costa Rica's on your radar, which trust me, it's getting on a lot of people's radar, this relocation retreat might just be for you. So we'd love to see you there.
Absolutely. And look, kudos to Michael because Michael has sold more tickets to this retreat than anybody. That dude is killing it. Okay. So of course he's
just trying to get you to go to get a ticket from him. Don't pay attention to that psychology bullshit.
Help a brother out.
You want
a brother out.
Jesus. Hey, I want to get into maybe a little deeper dive on some of the philosophy behind it, because this self-sustainable thing is bigger than just these things, waste management and water. I want to know what you feel about kind of you being your own employee, dude. You're running your own life. There's nobody telling you what to do. You got to take some responsibility. You got some freedom. I want to know how that feels.
Now
Rebecca,
that's probably
Rebecca,
the best.
tell him how he feels, Rebecca. He doesn't know.
Well, okay. So first, Rebecca reminded me it's mulberries. We've already planted a couple of mulberry trees. Those things put on fruit fast. And man, nothing goes better in a bowl of vanilla ice cream than some mulberries. Woo! Talk about good. But hey, when you do have your own homestead, some people say, man, that sounds like a lot of work. It's a full-time job. Now, guess what? You don't really have an employer. Of course, I mean, I kind of still do, because Rebecca's like, honey, can you do this? Honey, can you do that? Honey, can you do this? So I guess I still got an employer.
Yeah, you grow them honeydew melons. Honeydew.
That's right. So anyway, but really, you got to stop and think, because having your own homestead is not that difficult. The hard part is setting it up. But once you set it up, because of the technology that we have today, and all of the different things that we can use, you can practically automate everything. You can automate sprinklers. You can automate feeding of the rabbits and the quails. So it's not like you have to be, you could, hey, if I want to go to the stinking beach for 2 days or a week, I can still go, and everything's on autopilot. Now, obviously, if I'm going to be gone for a week, I'm going to have somebody here to at least make sure something doesn't hiccup and the animals still have their water and food. But, you know, I can still leave for a couple of days and not have any problems. So the cool thing is, it's a full-time job, but once you get it set up right, it really is not difficult. And you get to where, man, it's like, this is cool, man. I just went out, fed the chickens. I brought back a dozen eggs. You know, it's that fulfillment, you know, to be able to, I'm cooking supper and it's like, hey, man, you know, I need a little bit of oregano for this spaghetti, and grab a couple of leaves, you know, or, you know, go get a few tomatoes, get some plants. You know, it's so fulfilling that I didn't have to go buy it. It's so fulfilling that I know it's 100% chemical free. It's so fulfilling to know that, hey, I'm working for myself and my paycheck is sitting out there in that garden, and I can pick up all this stuff. And that's pretty awesome.
I don't know. I just remember when I used to work the, you know, like 9 to 5 type of jobs. And I'll never forget when I started my own business, doing my own thing, and how good you feel. Everything that happens is your responsibility. You're doing, maybe doing your passion or following your dreams or whatever. And something about that, I mean, you probably take it for granted, but I mean, you're doing your own thing, dude. That's past self-fulfilling. You know, everything is on you and Rebecca. You're making it happen. You're growing this thing, and you guys are doing it together. I mean, that stuff is pretty commendable and cool, man. So I don't know if people understand. Yeah, it is hard work in the beginning. Everything's hard work. If it's not hard work, it's not worth it. You're not,
that was a mouthful right there. That needed some fireworks. If it ain't hard work, it ain't worth it.
Yeah, if there's no suffering, then what the hell are you doing? But I don't know. I think that's super cool. So how long will it be before you're maybe not debt free, but where you have your money out for running a house and, you know, energy and all that stuff? When will it be down to fairly low, or what is low? I don't know. Explain the savings and the expenses a little bit of, and, you know, obviously initial expenses, but I'm just saying once it starts, you know.
Well, here's what I see a lot of people doing. A lot of people are doing kind of what I'm doing. Matter of fact, you know, I'm always doing research. And hey, there's this young couple that came to Costa Rica, and really, because the climate is so good, they actually put up some bamboo poles, and they put up a big sheet of plastic over it, and they got one bed over there, and I think they might have used some pallets or something, but they just cleared off a little piece of property, put up bamboo poles, plastic sheet, put a bed, they put a mosquito net around the bed, and they put up a big tank up there, ran water to it, and so they got this makeshift place similar to what we have inside this barn right here, and they're living there while they build something. So really, and of course their whole thing was, hey man, we're living in Costa Rica for under $1,000, and that's what. So, you know, it costs hardly nothing, but it's what you want to exchange. Are you okay with living or glamping lifestyle until you build the dream that you're wanting to work toward? So Rebecca and I, we've been living in this barn for 2 years. Okay. It's cost us nothing to live in this barn, where we could have been paying $600-700 a month rent. We could have been paying electricity. So we used to have to go to the store, pay our electricity, pay our water, pay all that crap. I don't have to stand in lines and do that anymore. So now, you know, yeah, it cost me $6,000 for my solar system, but that will pay for itself in about 3 or 4 years. Okay. Hey, yeah, I've got maybe $5,000 or $6,000 in the place that I'm living in. But you know what? That will pay for itself in just a few years. So really, if I'm conservative on how I build stuff, it really, the amount of money you spend is really dependent on your lifestyle. We will get
Well, you're on a
inside.
mountain. I mean, you're on top of a mountain. What can your lifestyle be but kind of running that place? Your expenses are gonna go once you have your food stuff going, your gardening. You're not gonna be out of pocket almost anything.
That's right, dude. Once that garden gets going, and once I'm sustainable, the money I will save will be astronomical. So it's
No.
well worth it if that's the kind of lifestyle you want.
So what about habits? Like this is kind of be hard to explain. So you're on top of a mountain. It's not like you can't, like, let's say you have a fast food habit or a drinking habit or in some sort of habits. What have you noticed in the change of like how you guys run your own life as opposed to when you were more, I don't know, let's say city dwellers for lack of a better word. So on the mountain, obviously things have changed a lot, in certain areas. So is there any habits you miss or what's your biggest habit or I don't know. You know
Well,
where I'm coming from?
probably the biggest thing, probably the thing that Rebecca and I like to do the most is we like to find a nice restaurant, good environment, good flavorful food. So if you want to call it a habit, the habit is we like to go out on the weekend, go to a nice restaurant, have a good glass of wine, and just enjoy that. Now, Rebecca doesn't drink at all, okay? I enjoy a good glass of wine. So that's the one thing that we probably miss. But hey, if we want to, we just jump in a vehicle, drive 2 or 3 hours, find a good restaurant, spend the day and enjoy that. So now the other habit is that, I enjoy a good glass of wine. I can't seem to find a good wine. So hey, one of the things that I do is I love making my own wine. And so I make my own wine. And so I'm setting up inside my house, a place inside my tiny house, a place where I can start fermenting my own banana wine. I can make all the kind of wines I want. And just really, I can sit back on my porch after a hard day's work. I can have a glass of wine and be like, whoo, it don't get no better.
I've had your wine. You made me start drinking again. I had to go back to AA after that first relocation retreat. That wine was so good I couldn't stop. And then the other question I have is, how in the hell doesn't Rebecca drink being married to you? That there is no possible way that she's not heavily medicated to deal with you. I just don't believe that. I'm sorry.
Well, when I'm her drug of choice. That's all it is to
Okay.
it.
Good answer. Good answer. Hey, so let's talk about. Okay, you talked about it a little bit, but you can't. We don't need a Ted and Mrs. Kaczynski on the mountain. So the alone time versus the social aspect of it. So is once a week good enough for you? Do you invite people up? Do you miss the social aspect of hanging out with people? How's that all work with the alone time versus social?
Uh, you know, um, I love to be around a lot of people. Rebecca, she enjoys people, but she's just as comfortable being here. As like today, right after this podcast, we're gonna go visit Pam and Tom. We're gonna have a good time because they're like-minded people. We enjoy visiting with them. So there's times that we do go out and visit with people, but it's not something that we miss because. Well, Rebecca is a big family person. She used to really like to spend time with family, but she didn't have family here. I never have been a big family person because my family was dysfunctional. So, but I enjoy getting with like-minded people like Pam and Tom and just having a good dinner, good conversation.
Well, Pam and Tom's the one that gave me this coffee cup. So I'm assuming when you see them, they'll probably give you a coffee cup this big, right? Something like that.
You're wrong. You're wrong. I think he just threw me under the bus, people.
Yeah. Okay. So wait a minute. Wait a minute. How much have you become more environmentally aware?
Well,
You know what I
that
mean?
is I've always been pretty much environmentally aware, but I can tell you I've become way more environmentally aware now. It's like someone asked me here earlier, right here, said, back to your waste management. I used to not even think about waste management as much until now I did because I build houses and I want my septic system to be right. But being up here, I'm way more aware because I know that in Costa Rica they only have one tank, and he said, well, what happens when your first tank is full? I'm thinking no truck's going to come up here. You're absolutely right. No truck could even make it up here. But if you build it right, if you build your treatment plant the right way, that first tank will never get full. Never. Not if you build it right. And not if you're conscious. Hey, man, don't start dumping baby wipes and diapers in there. It'll never get full. So if you do it right, it will never get full. But absolutely, I'm way more conscious about the environment, way more conscious about the lives of everything. I mean, we see more of the tiniest bugs, and we're more conscious on, hey, we try not to kill anything. Now, if he's a snake, I'm sorry, you're dying. Don't come close here. But if snakes and spiders, you're out of here. But
so you're obviously connecting with nature a lot more, because even you said in prior podcasts about you take your long walks with your dog. So obviously you're up on a mountain. So you've obviously something's calling you up there. Something's speaking to you, the trees and all that kind of stuff. So you're obviously more in tune with the environment. You obviously are getting in tune with nature, I think, a little more, even whether you know it or not, you are,
I'm absolutely way more in tune with nature. I mean, it's like you say that the volcano speaks to you. I don't know that anything speaks to me, but I tell you what, creation speaks to me. I love to get out, see the creation, I love creating these ecosystems and when I say creating an ecosystem, the nature naturally creates an ecosystem. But when I came here, there was nothing but it was a jungle and it was tall grass. Well, I cleared all that in order to build a house. Well, we didn't hardly see any birds. We didn't see hardly any hummingbirds. Well, I started creating an ecosystem. I started planting trees, bushes, flowers that would naturally attract those birds. Now I get a lot of hummingbirds all the time, and we love to sit down, drink coffee, watch the hummingbirds. And I never would see wildlife here. Well, now the monkeys are right in the backyard. We have these other little, they look like rodents, but they're big. They come out and they eat on the property. So it's attracting and creating an ecosystem that is in harmony with nature. And so now nature comes here and enjoys our slice of paradise. It don't get better than that.
I think everybody in their life should be able to sit on a porch or outside somewhere with banana wine or coffee and watch. We call it the last call, when hummingbirds come around 5:30, right before sunset. They all come out, get that last food, and man, they are just marvelous little creatures to watch. They got personalities. They're territorial. They fight. They zip around, and there's 2 or 3 or 4 different species of them. We love that, man. We have friends that go up there, up to D'Angelo's house, mountain house, and we just sit there and watch the hummingbirds for an hour.
Oh, man, look, I mean, I want to have more and more hummingbirds here, because look, there is places all over. They're absolutely magnificent creatures. And look, back to kind of what Keith was saying, hey, the snake people are going to get you. Well, I am educating myself, because there are some good snakes. And up here, as long as there are some good snakes, you do need some of these good snakes that are helping to keep the rat population down and mice population down. So you do have to remember, everything that's out there, everything has a necessary balance. If I were to kill all the snakes around here, I might have an overpopulation of rodents if I didn't have my cat. But my cat gets a mouse every single night.
Yeah, I love it, man. I love a cat, man. You don't even have to feed a cat. My cat would just bring every day. He'd bring home a bird, a freaking cockroach, and geckos and mice.
Oh no, I'm in trouble. I'm canceling my appointment. Pamela says, sorry, Alan, no cup. I'm not going.
You got to have a cup about that big, Pam. Come on. You can get him. Not
Oh
everybody
man,
can this.
I think I set myself up for that one.
You did. I wanted my guy Eduardo. We talked about this before. He was talking about the people that live to be 100 here, the blue zones down in the Nicoya Peninsula, but not just the Nicoya Peninsula. Just their simple way of life that they live. They tend to be spiritual, circled with family, eating good, always working. Even at 80 years old, they're out there. They're doing their thing, and I think it goes along with the sustainable living because it all kind of, that's what they're basically doing. They're doing what everyone thinks they're in poverty or here. It's so funny. They have a simple structure, a nice house, or I mean, a simple structure. They have all their family there. Everyone's bringing in, doing their thing. That she does the groceries or whatever, and they're kind of doing sustainable living, and that's why they end up being 100 years old. So, Alan, Rebecca's gonna have you for another 30 years, dude. I don't know how she's gonna do it without
least.
wine. Without
At
wine?
least. Well, I mean, and let's clarify this. Costa Rica the whole earth has these blue zones, and blue zones is where there's more 100-year-old people. It's not because of where they live that they're 100 years old. It's because of how they live. So with that said, I'll live to be way over 100 years old because of how we're living here. Well, my neighbor, okay, he's my only neighbor here. Okay, he came here 50 years ago. He hiked up this mountain when him and his wife, took them all day, but they hiked up this mountain. It was nothing but a trail in his 20s, early 20s, okay? And when he came up here with a gun and a piece of plastic, and they lived underneath that piece of plastic and hunted, and that's what they ate. Well, my neighbor right now, 79 years old. You want to know what my neighbor's doing right now at 79? Every morning he milks his cows, and right now we had a landslide yesterday that normally I would be helping them with. But I said, man, I got this live, so I can't go help you this morning. But, a couple of days ago, we had this landslide. And look, 79 years old, that guy is slinging a shovel, and he is in great, great shape. And why is he in great shape? Because every single day, he's cutting a little firewood for the stove. He's milking the cows. Every single day, he's working.
Purpose.
He's moving.
He's got purpose. You need purpose in your life. You got to have a reason to get up every morning, and he obviously does. Real quick, we're almost done here. I wanted to ask you about, we touched on it a little bit. Do you compost?
Yeah. So composting, composting is really just being environmentally friendly with your waste. So, hey, you know what? If you have, let's say, for example, I go fishing. I like to go fishing. Well, I clean my fish. I take all of the waste from that fish and I bury it into the soil, or I put it into a composting pile. So if you bury all that for your garden and you make a composting, all of the vegetables, all of that waste that comes from the vegetables all go into this great big old 5-gallon bucket. It gets full. I dump it into the garden and I bury it. So I've got this natural composting system. And so, hey, anything, you got envelopes, paper,
coffee grounds, egg shells, avocado things, banana peels. I actually throw them out my window. I have a composting thing right out my window. I throw everything that can kind of be part of the soil out there. So you can, composting's big. And the other thing is about tools. What about the tool situation? Do you need tons of tools to do this, man? Because a lot of people, those are expensive. Can you get, you know what I mean?
Tools are hard to get right here in Costa Rica, no doubt about it. So you don't need a lot of tools, but you will need some basic tools. So the best thing to do is just buy one at a time, okay? And you get started. The deal is it's very, very easy to get started. Yeah, you're going to need a few tools. And so when I tell people, hey, when you get started, what you need really is a small bodega. That was the very first thing I did, is I built this 6x6 bodega, and that's where I put my tools. So as I got tools, I put them on a shelf in there, and one piece after another. You don't need a lot of tools. It is difficult, but if you're going to be doing a lot of stuff on your own, building it on your own, well, you're going to end up buying a few more tools at a time. But hey, you don't have to come here with a truckload of tools. You can buy them. It's going to cost you more. Now, if you got a lot of tools at home and you want to ship them here, the best thing to do, and that's a whole nother topic, is to get your residency here where you qualify to get that shipped here tax-free and duty-free, okay? But that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, tools are definitely a whole nother topic. Guys, we're out of time, man. We could go another 3 hours on this, I think.
Time went quick.
Yeah, it did. So I want to thank everybody for joining us in our 9 to 10 hour Odd Couple Costa Rica podcast, and chiming in and commenting and supporting and all that. So,
and look, you're doing us a great, great favor that, hey, once we're done with this podcast, hey, go and comment underneath the video. YouTube just absolutely loves the engagement. So you put a lot of questions over here. Remember, if you have a question for me, go to my channel, go to my video, type in that question, I'll answer it. If you got a question for Alan, you need to go to his video, put in those questions. So, hey, feel free to leave more comments. Engagement. YouTube loves it. It will help boost it because you got two of the best guys. And well, look, you got the two best experts in all of Costa Rica helping you learn about living in Costa Rica.
And one last thing, it would really be helpful, guys. We're gonna grow this podcast, whether it takes us 10 years or not. But it would be very helpful if you guys would share this because we think we have a lot of information about Costa Rica that a lot of people would be interested in. So if you guys are on Facebook groups, I know they don't really like that, but maybe tell a few your friends on Facebook, hey man, you ought to catch that podcast on Sunday mornings, man. They talk about a lot of cool things Costa Rica. That would be very helpful. But we're going to grow this come hell or high water. I guarantee it. I'm Michal Alan from TribalCostaRicaNow.com. And
I'm Alan Richard from Off the Grid Homestead, Costa Rica.
Ciao, guys. I got to go. See you next week.
See you, brother. All right, let me change real quick. We're going to rock and roll. Poor Pamela and Tom, they probably feeling like they're going to have to buy me something because they bought Michael something.